personally, what I crave is, and I've seen this in so many other men, is compassion and non-judgment. And if I was to expand a little bit on that, compassion, non-judgment, understanding, and empathy, it just goes so far in the healing journey, full stop, but particularly for men, especially the non-judgment piece.
Welcome to the Embodied Relationship Experience podcast. My name is John Wineland. I am here with my good brother, Stefanos Sifandos. We've known each other now for what? 8 years, 9 years, something like that?
No, a little less than that, about 6 or 7.
Yeah. And Steph is officially the first guest that I'm having on this podcast. And so I wanted to bring him in to discuss this concept of what men crave emotionally, which is a charged and often complicated concept. But, we're two men who, I would call us high value men, right?
I hope so.
We're on purpose. We're in the world. We've been doing and are continuing to do our own deep work. We're both good fathers and all these things, right? So I thought it would be really helpful to open this discussion not only for women, but for other men who are just kind of fuzzy around this question about, what do I crave emotionally? What do I need so I can feel like I trust her with my heart? What do I need? What do I crave, right? And so I really want to come at it from this lens of not necessarily what you think men need, but more about what you actually crave, right? Because I think that that's part of the work, is giving men permission to just tap into like, wow, what do I crave? Most men don't even know that sexually. Most men don't know that emotionally. But they know it when they see it, they feel it, and something happens, something opens. I see this all the time. So this concept, we're going to dive in. Before we do, if you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button, spread it around. It's really great to help us get the content out. Please, I know this is going to spark some thoughts, so please leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate and review. It helps me get this out, right? So, Steph, you're pretty well known in the world in what you do. You teach women, you teach men, you teach relationships. And so just for those who don't know you, give us a little, 1 or 2 minute blurb on who Stefanos is.
Anecdotally, I'll ask 10 people, and maybe four will know who Tony Robbins is. So when you sound well known, I'm like,
in our space, yeah.
Thank you.
In our little fucking, weird cave.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I'll take the compliment. I appreciate it. I've been in the personal transformation space for the last 24 years. Not quite as long as Tony Robbins, but in there for a bit. I guess my focus really has been on relationships, but not just relationships with other people, relationships to ourselves, to the things that are most important to us. Yeah. For me, it's not a question of whether we're in relationship. I think we're completely relational with anything and everything in our world. It's more so the quality of that relationship. So to our past, to our traumas, to our dreams, to our visions, to our eroticism, to our maturity, our emotions, as we'll delve deeper into that, the things that make us us. And I'm just very fascinated by that. And then, the periphery of human psychology and human performance and sexuality and everything that just feeds into that, right? So that's really what my focus is, and just helping certain people optimize and helping other people, supporting them in their healing journey as well, helping them move through some really tough stuff.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been, there for me in my healing journey, along the way. Yeah. So yeah, I highly recommend Steph's work, and we'll get into where to find him in a bit. So, within the context of what I've been talking about on this podcast, those of you who've been with me for a little bit know that I've broken down this idea of sacred intimacy into 3 pillars. Last episode, I did a piece on the 3 types of intimacy: the energetic intimacy, emotional intimacy, and then spiritual intimacy. Notice I didn't say sexual, but it's all kind of wrapped up. And then in this episode, I really want to get into this idea of the part of the second pillar, which is probably for me the deepest one and the richest one, and that is devotion to love, right? And what it means to be devotional to love in the relationship sphere over our own agendas, over our own patterns and wounds, over our own childhood programming. And that's where the fucking rubber meets the road. That's very hard in the moments of conflict. And one of these concepts that I really wanted to dive in was emotional safety. And normally we talk about that, at least in the polarity world, we talk about that from the perspective of women, right? Rarely, in fact, I don't think I've actually seen anything that talks about it, from the perspective of men, like what makes a man feel emotionally safe, what inspires him to want to claim a woman forever, right? What allows him to be his best self, what relaxes his nervous system. And so I thought it would just be a nice conversation for us to talk about just personally what we crave, or, what you've heard from men. I know you work with a lot of men. I work with a lot of men. There are some themes that are developing here. So let me just get a couple disclaimers out of the way. We're obviously not speaking for all men. We're speaking for ourselves and for men that we work with, friends. We're both in at least 2 men's groups, and I've been in many. And so we're not speaking for all men, of course. And I want to say, because I know this will come up in the comments, that we're talking within the confines of a mature, safe relationship, right? We're not talking about something that, men crave and need, but that they're not willing to reciprocate. They're not willing to give back. So, before I get the comments of like, well, men need to do this too, right? Of course they do. Of course they do. But I really wanted to open the space because I think a lot of women don't know what men crave emotionally, right? And I haven't actually seen them. I mean, again, that's not all women, but just in the spaces that I run in, there's I'd say a lack of curiosity and even repulsion towards sort of men's emotional needs. And it's understandable. I think women have been in the desert so long, their needs not being met, and there's no attunement to their nervous system. I just understand why it would be like, well, fuck that. Now, now men are just now coming online, don't talk to us about your emotional needs and nervous system needs. I'm not saying everybody does that, but there is that in the space. And so what I'm really hoping to do is to just create a holistic view of man, right? We both have a masculine and a feminine, right? My masculine is going to crave certain things from my feminine partner. My emotional masculine is going to crave those things. My emotional feminine is going to crave certain things from my feminine partner, and vice versa. So I think it's important to give some space for that. So I wanted to tee it up, what I'm really looking to get into here. And I think that the first question that I came up with is around emotional maturity. And what are the characteristics or traits of the emotionally mature feminine that you crave?
Thank you for that. I love the way that you've set that up in terms of just laying some foundations of what is maybe happening in the world in the realm of relationship. I think it's important to also look at where we've come from, and collectively and maybe at a macro level, it hasn't really been appropriate for so many different reasons for men to emote or to be in touch with their emotions in a healthy way. And so I totally get that women have been in the desert for so long, and men have too. And I guess at some point we have to put our shields down collectively, and we'll probably get into that. But personally, what I crave is, and I've seen this in so many other men, and this is what helps us put that armor down, is compassion and non-judgment. And if I was to expand a little bit on that, compassion, non-judgment, understanding, and empathy, it just goes so far in the healing journey, full stop, but particularly for men, especially the non-judgment piece, because look, we all have a capacity to be really hard on ourselves, and men carry, again, I should say all men, disclaimer again, we're generalizing, right? So many of the men that I've worked with, and myself, I even speak for myself, it relates to you. But I've carried this burden, if you like, or this belief that I have to be a certain way. And anything less than that, you know how hard I am on myself, man. You know probably better than most actually, because you really see it. You can really penetrate that. I can be so hard on myself that it puts up all these walls. And because I'm not getting it right. And these are old wounds, right?
Yeah, of course.
And when I met from a deeply feminine bodied woman, particularly that the way I interpret that sense of loving nurturance with non-judgment and compassion, and it's consistent. That's a real key there as well. I crave that. And look, at the same time, it's part of me that's going to push that away because it doesn't feel familiar and it doesn't feel safe. And can I really trust it?
Yeah.
But eventually, if I can move into my own center and accept, that's part of like really receive that and learn to receive that and allow myself to receive that, that compassion, non-judgment begins to just grind away that armor. And that then opens up my heart to not only give from a more authentic place, but to really receive what that love is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm curious, do you feel like you're more, if let's say in an episode you're met with that level of compassion and empathy, do you find yourself more available to give after that?
Yes.
I mean, that's my experience as well, right?
100%.
And it's funny, I think that as I've spoken to women about this episode, there's this thing about, well, as long as they're not in it all the time, like there's this fear that comes up of like, oh, if I'm going to be asked to hold his emotions, then this is going to be an all the time thing, every time thing. And I think, and so I understand that, but what I would love women to hear is that in many men, and in many of the men that I work with, when we feel emotionally safe, it then kind of just allows our masculine to come back online and then, be there for you. If we're feeling emotionally unmet or we're feeling like we can't trust you with our wild or tender hearts, then it's going to be really hard to like rise above that and be reciprocal and present. And so, yeah, I really want women to know that on the other side of your compassion and empathy is his deeper capacity for presence and holding you.
Yeah. And the caveat that you shared before around this being an emotionally mature relationship, it allows space for that we're not speaking about a man that is at the very beginning stages of his journey into self and into relating and into intimacy. We're speaking about a man that has a level of awareness. I don't know if you can quantify it per se, but it's deeper than just awareness. He's in practice with himself. Yeah. So, and to also expand on something you asked earlier, not only can I give more after receiving that, over the years, I'm allowing more of that in faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can give quicker, but it's not just to give, it's also just to let that settle in my nervous system. That I am worthy of that as well.
Yeah. And that I'm safe to be messy.
Yeah.
That I'm safe to be messy. I was thinking about that question about what I would crave in from an emotionally mature feminine, right? Some of the words that came to me were curiosity, right? Like to really be curious about what is going on with you? What is important to you? What do you need? Right. And that is something that felt really important. The other thing that felt really important was this, lack of a better term, awareness, right? To be self-aware, to have the self-awareness of your own anger, for example. Like I think a lot of this problem, a lot of the big issue is this unowned anger, which I understand in women, right? And this anger at not being met. And then over the last 50 years or so, men have gotten in touch with their emotions and they've probably gone too far into the emotional realm.
Some have, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of sort of training that has taken men too deep into their feminine expression.
It's just inauthentic messiness. It feels fake.
Yeah, or it's indulgent. Yeah, and I think, and as somebody who is indulgent, right, I can relate to that, right? But I'm aware of my emotional indulgence, right? I'm aware, and so I think one of the things that's hard to ask for me, of a woman is self-awareness. Like, are you aware of how much of this is what's happening between us right now, and how much of this is projection of your past? How much of this is, family of origin stuff? And I don't mind if it comes. It's just if you're aware of it. Like just it relaxes my nervous system for you to say, I'm so fucking angry right now. And this is the exact same thing that my dad used to do. And and I'm feeling, you know, and when you do that, I get this trigger, right? There's the amount of awareness that somebody brings or that a woman can bring to her own emotional experience helps to relax me to know that I'm not going to just be dodging daggers and I'm not going to just be dodging a wound dump. And then I can be with it.
It's safe.
It's safe.
Because it's known.
Yeah.
The self-awareness is overtly saying, I am aware of myself. I know these things that live within me and I'm here expressing them, but I know them.
Yeah.
So you're not guessing, is this me? Is it just me? Is it something else?
Yeah.
Is she willing to take responsibility and ownership of what she's experiencing and what she's projecting? And then if she comes out and says, yep, I'm projecting. Yep, I'm really angry right now. I'm so good with that.
I'm totally down for that, right? Because I hear it all the time. I hear women say like, oh no, I tried that. The other piece, I think this leads into the second thing I think is crucial for me. I think most men don't even realize this until I put them in front of a woman and I have them gauge it, but it's open-heartedness. Like the ability to be open-hearted, like literally have your heart relaxed and open as much as possible while experiencing big emotions. That's a skill that I totally crave in a woman. Like you can be as angry as you want at me. You can be in as much anguish, but if I feel your heart open, I'm so much more, it becomes magnetic. It becomes, attractive, it's sexy actually.
Powerful skill.
In a certain way. Yeah. Like, you know, yeah.
Powerful
like,
embodiment.
It's very powerful.
Very
yeah.
powerful,
yeah. And so part of this idea of what a mature feminine looks like to me is aware, compassionate, understanding that we all have wounds, right? And, you know, the ability to really be in experience with an open heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, all of that really promotes safety. It really speaks to, I feel safe enough to be me.
Yeah.
And I know at some level, of course with agreements in the relationship, that we can go to really difficult places. And if you can maintain openness and I can maintain openness, we can traverse those together.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I was thinking about, I'm still being with the question of what I really crave. And what I also really crave, and this may be a little sticky for some, is I'm going to use these words, worship and devotion. Right.
Yeah.
And
so don't shoot the messengers, ladies. Like we're just telling you what we crave and what we know other men crave, right? Like it's you can give it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just giving you the information.
And in the world that we live in, maybe this isn't the right term, but I'll just use it and we can play around with it. I'm happy to change it. But it also at some level needs to be earned. And I want to add something to the devotion, the worship, for the intrinsic value that is me. Not that I have to do something to earn it.
Not as provider, not as protector.
Just the intrinsic value is me. So when I say earn it, what I'm really meaning is I can't be a piece of shit and expect worship and devotion. And in fact, I don't think I'd even be receptive to it. If I know I'm if I'm purposely in my wounds and in my projection and pain and shaming her, and then I'm expecting devotion and worship, which does actually, I can't personally do that. But if I'm doing that, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, and I love this idea of being worthy and earning it. But what I think what is often troubling is how much is earning it, right? Like we all have wounds, obviously men have wounds, and we want to be free to receive your feedback about those wounds and then make steps towards cleaning it up. And is that earning it, right? Or do I have to be in this sort of state of masculine perfection all the time in order to earn your love, and or earn safety? I think so much of what I crave, you know, I mean, there's a couple other things that I crave in an emotionally mature woman. Let's just stay with that question. The other is the capacity to repair.
Oh, massive.
Right? Right? I mean, it's everything, because find me a couple that doesn't fight.
And genuinely repair though, right? Like genuinely, not pretend, like, not mask it up.
Yeah. Not these kind of like solid, oh, I'm sorry you had that experience.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry you had that experience. No, you're right. I did this. I understand why it's hurt you. I've done it before. I'm aware of it. Here are the things I'm going to do. Here's the way I think it impacted you. Like, and of course, men need the same
awareness
thing.
piece though, right?
What's that?
That's a self-awareness
piece. It's a self-awareness piece. I mean, so much of what we're talking about, just to zoom out, in the frame that I use, is what our feminines, our hearts, let's just call it our hearts, crave in their masculines. And for women to deny that that's a valuable thing to cultivate for the sake of relationship would be like us saying like, oh, like your drive repulses me, or your mission repulses me, or your capacity to penetrate, and organize and do, be in their masculine repulses me. Like that would be, and I understand that some men have that experience, right? But good men would be devotional to her masculine. Right? Just supportive, supportive of it. And good women should be supportive to our feminine. If I was to ask a woman and say, hey, do you want your man to be able to express joy and passion and excitement and, and love at a very, very deep level? Like, do you want a fucking roomie? Do you want some roomie in your man? They'd all be hell yes. But the moment I start saying, well, what about fear? And what about, anguish? And what about anxiety? What about the other parts of being human? That
exist on a spectrum.
Yeah, they exist on a spectrum. It's amazing to watch what happens in I think the way I'm reading it, and I could be wrong, and it's not like this for all women, but the way I'm reading it is that fear of, oh no, am I going to have to be his mother?
Yeah, I'm sure that's very applicable in many instances. And also, can I and do I even want to hold that? And again, like I just look at our collective around that. There is we live in a society of convenience and short-term gratification.
Yeah.
We embrace what is pleasurable and easy and accessible and nice and pleasant and all that and desirable, and we push away what's undesirable.
Yeah.
And fear, loathing, anguish. Yeah. It all lives in that space of undesirable, but it's part of who we are. And so if we deny that aspect of ourselves, are we actually not denying the fullness of the convenient aspects of ourselves and the desirable parts of ourselves?
Yeah. The way I would like to frame that is in a healthy relationship, we are embracing the fullness of our partner's humanity and spectrum. Far feminine to far masculine, right? So we have cultivated the capacity to hold their feminine. We've cultivated the capacity to be devotional to their masculine. We've cultivated the capacity to create safety for all of the ugly bits. I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this a few times, and although I don't agree with everything he says, this one I think hits the fucking mark, which is if you're really going to commit to somebody for a lifetime or for a long time, you're going to have to go into the pits of hell with them, right? And if you go into the pits of hell blaming them, shaming them, like repulsed by them, like that is just going to be so damaging. And I see a lot of men afraid to bring their wounds. A lot of men don't know how, to be fair. A lot of men don't know how, and that's why we have jobs. But I think this idea of, is it safe for me to show my little boy, especially if it has something to do with her behavior? I think a lot of women, and I've had this experience a lot, like my grief around Claire, they love it. My grief, just my personal grief and about my childhood, love it. The moment that there's anything that has to do with their behavior, all of a sudden, now I've even had someone say, oh, you're being too feminine. I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think I'm just being emotional.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think this is going to be an evolution in relational dynamics of how do women, and I see it in women, cultivate the capacity to be with your wound and wild heart. And I think that brings me to this concept of capacity. So what I crave emotionally is to know that she could be wide and not be mother. So I'm curious, I want to pull on that a little bit. How do you feel it when she's nurturing you, but not mothering you?
Well, a big part of that comes from within me. And so, you know, very openly, I have a mother wound. And I'll just.
I got that cleared out years ago, man.
I wish.
Yeah.
Well, I gave it a crack in my early to mid 20s.
Yeah, I know, right?
Gave it another crack in my early 30s.
Deeper and deeper. Every decade, it just goes deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I'm with you, yeah. And as the layers of self evolve, more comes to the surface, and I'm in it right now. You know, I'm really in it right now. Yeah, and I will say it's the most beautiful relationship that I have with this now that I've ever had in the past, and I guess that's because of the maturity I've had over the years, over 20 years, I guess, since I really started looking at it. But a lot of that, you know, the more I make the unknown and the unconscious known and conscious within myself, the less I project in subtle ways, and the more I can receive my wife as not mothering me, or as me not seeing her or feeling her as a mother. And because what happens is when I'm in the intensity of that wound, I'm unconsciously projecting so much that any subtle movement that reminds me of even an affliction or a shade of the relationship I had with my mother, I'm instantly in that defensive posture. So that's why I say a lot of it comes from me.
I get that. Yeah. I get that. But there is and you and I are going to just default into taking responsibility. I don't want us to do that in this episode. For sure. Like, I literally want us to be like, all right, like, so what would I crave from my woman when I am in a deep little boy wound that is not mother?
Yeah. And it's what I think is happening in woman is fear. And so and I don't know if it's this autonomic, unconscious response that just takes place, but it's, I'm not going to see you as my capable partner. I'm going to see you as this wounded little boy that can't get beyond that place. And now I have to be that. It's like the drama triangle. Like, you're the victim, I'm going to be the savior or the villain, whatever. Oh, you're the villain, well, I'm going to be the hero. It's just this automatic default response. I feel there's a little bit of that happening.
Yeah, no, I see that a lot. It's a very knee-jerk, I think it's a very deep fear, and it's a reasonable fear, right? Again, am I going to have to mother him? Am I going to have to hold space for him? When am I going to be able to, like, relax and be held, right? And you know, I tend to think, I was thinking about this morning, that in healthy relationships, it's probably something like a healthy polarized relationships. It's probably something like an 80-20, 70-30 rule, right? Like 70% of the time, I should be holding the space in the masculine and leading, right? 30% of the time, I'm going to be a human and have emotions and fears and da-da-da-da. And so us being able to both be able to fluidly move back and forth is important. I think what you're talking about is capacity, right? And so when I see a woman expanding her capacity to be with emotion, be with her own emotion, be with experience, be with energy, be with mine, like, actually, like, okay, I've got some energy. She's not taking it totally personally. She's not collapsing. She's like, you know, I'm having an experience. When I see her nervous system expand to meet that, something deep in me relaxes.
Oh, for sure.
Something deep in me relaxes. Now, of course, if I wasn't doing the same for her, you know, probably 2 times more than she is, then I can understand why that would be draining. That would be draining for her. So before we move to the next question, is there anything else about the emotional maturity you crave in the feminine that you want to bring to this conversation?
Yeah, it's intrinsically connected to the self-awareness piece and and desire as well. So what I'm really looking for in my feminine partner, my woman, is a desire for her to really want to grow. And as she then cultivates that self-awareness and she deepens in her own processes and really connects to, you know, how she shows up in the world and what that is connected to and what drives that, and starts to make the shifts towards unhealthy towards healthy, she then develops a capacity for more emotional resilience.
Right.
And in that, I know I can trust that she can hold more without defaulting to panic or defensiveness or projection or her own shutdown or whatever her shutdown looks like.
Yeah.
And so that gives me a greater ability to be more in that range. I'm also the type of guy, man, I just move stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. I scraped my fucking car earlier.
Right.
Like when I came here, just literally at the bottom of fucking, I
Okay.
came in and I said, fucking, I scraped my car. I'm done. Like I'm pretty much done. Like 90% of that charge is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a little bit of residue. Like I'm still pissed off because I scraped the front of it. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. A man in his car.
Yes, it's done. Just pissed off at it. But the intensity was there. I released it because, you know, I released through action and that was, and I'm pretty much done with it.
Yeah.
I need to know that, not that she knows that, but that she has the emotional resilience.
Yeah.
That because she's gone deep within herself. Because for me, how I define resilience is our ability to recover from challenge.
Yeah.
So if she exposes herself to her own internal challenge and she then recovers from that, she's expanding herself.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is so crucial for me as well. Like I clear stuff really fast. And once I'm just given some space to clear stuff, it's gone.
Yeah. Without judgment for me as well.
Yeah. I can clear stuff very fast. And as long as it's not, you know, personalized or, you know, again, I see women go into this sort of knee-jerk reaction and some of it might have to do with masculine anger, right? Like the stuff in their nervous system about masculine anger. So resiliency feels really important, to be resilient, to understand that I'm not going to, once I clear stuff, I'm good. It's when you don't let me clear stuff that deep resentment starts to build.
Yeah, because you withhold, right?
Yeah.
Withhold your expression.
Or it's just like a deep rejection of my truth or my heart, right? That is my feminine going like, fuck you for not seeing me, not accepting me.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, acceptance. And just not feeling held, man.
Yeah.
Like just not feeling held in. It's like, I have to be a particular way again, just like when I was a kid. You know, I got a worst case.
Yeah.
Can't be myself, and it's being judged.
Yeah. And when I'm emotional, it's bad. Boys don't cry, all that kind of shit, right? So I would also add one last piece to this thing around emotional maturity, and that is courage.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like to be courageous enough to share your heart with me, to share your truth with me, to share your, again, open-hearted. You know, there's lots of practices on the Embodied Relationship Experience platform about open-hearted expression. So just saying it's out there. So being courageous in like leaning into, you know, you might have some fear coming up. Steph's mad. Okay. Like courage and curiosity in that moment would probably go a long way. Like, okay, I see you're pissed, my love. What happened? What's going on? And then you say, yeah, I fucked up my car. Yeah. And you go, oh, poor baby. And then you move on, right? Yeah. Okay. So the next question, I really love this question, which is, what is the trait or characteristic of devotion in the feminine that deeply inspires you? I know you said worship, but I think that I'm curious, I want to unpack what devotion means to you.
I can see it. I don't have a word for it just yet. It will come to me, but let me explain it. It came to me. It's this deep, divine desire to ravish. The ravishment.
Like you like being ravished.
Yeah. Like it's connected to worship.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm seen in such a way that is godlike, and I'm really aware of how this may come off, right? But I'm just being real.
Every man has this.
I know.
Just like every woman wants to have her pussy licked like she's the goddess. Every man wants to have his cock worshipped like
I'm a god.
I'm God. Yeah.
And it's less coming from narcissism and ego, and more coming from deep soul connection and trust. And so if I keep sort of going underneath that, it's just such a profound trust, and there's no room for shame. There's no room for judgment. There's just this openness and open-heartedness that allows for a continuity of the infinite to be explored, right? And for and it's through the physical, but it's not just through the physical. It's through gaze, it's through breath. I mean, that's obviously physical, but that becomes for me a gateway to something deeper. And it's not just sexual. That's a part of it, for sure. Yeah. For sure, it is. A sacred sexuality and sacred intimacy is a big part of it, and it's also the way that I am held in her heart, the way that she sees me and feels me without physical touch, literally through her gaze and through what I feel in the softness of her body.
Yeah, the softness of her heart is the key for me, and this devotion. When I talk about devotion, it's of course it feels nice for someone to like have devotion to my purpose, to what I'm trying to do in the world. I'm sure you feel the same. Like we work pretty fucking hard, and we're in the trenches with people, and we're eating shadow every day, and we're, you know what I mean? Like to have somebody who actually sees that and is like, oh, like I see how much you do. I see how you put yourself in the line of fire. I see how you do that, and have somebody really recognize that and be devotional to supporting that feels great. And of course, vice versa, right? Like, what is her mission, and are we supporting that? And whatever her mission is. Devotion to love, I like to look at literally, like that her orientation is to the liberation, expansion, and expression of love over pattern, again, coming back to self-awareness, over habit, over fear, over, what's the word? Conditionality, right? So much conditional love out there, man. So much conditional love. And to be devotional to love, to me, in a feminine partner means that her orientation, I mean, she's not going to get it perfect all the time, but that she keeps coming back to like, okay, what would create more love between us right now? Let me lean into that. What would create more love in our experience right now? What would create more love in his heart? What would allow me to feel more love? Just what honors love over the kind of power struggle that we see. That to me is crucial.
Yeah, I think there's tremendous maturity in that. And there's tremendous maturity for, all of us being able to relate to each other in that way, and not being confined by the clutter of life and the challenges and the responsibilities, and to actually create spaciousness in our world. Like when I see my partner slowing down and creating spaciousness specifically for that, and tuning to, what my needs are.
Yeah.
It's really, yes, it's sexy, but it's really,
goes beyond sexy.
It's
sexy and deeply healing.
It's so like I've got tears in the back of my eyes. Like it's right now, it's so deeply healing to be prioritized in that way, and to be cared for in that way, and to know that she's holding the I don't know what the word is, whether it's the pole, maybe the pole of love.
Yeah.
And
that's a great way to describe it.
The pole of where I can really delve into love. You can hold that, and I can expand into that as well. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very special.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it. And again, I like to think of that practice and that orientation. Like to me, if that is the North Star, if that is her North Star, I'm going to trust her more. Right? If her North Star is love over self-expression, I'm going to trust her more. If her North Star is love over success, I'm going to trust her more. If her North Star is love over, I don't know, fill in the blank, I'm going to trust her more. And so that's a deep exploration for a lot of women, and it requires I don't want to minimize it, because it requires a tremendous amount of courage for a woman to continually relax into it, and to relax into it when we're not necessarily perfectly trustable. That is I think the difference between the power struggle and the healing space that we're talking about, right? Of course, if like, I want you to be devotional to the man that you know I am, not necessarily the man I'm being, right? So if you're devotional to the man you know I am, I'm this type of man, and I'm down here, shaming me, criticizing me, is not going to get me up here. But if you're devotional to the man I am, you are going to use your love, your body, your fierceness. You might fucking pound on my chest or scream in my face, but your heart is open and you're like, wake up, motherfucker. Like, I love you. Wake up. I'm all for that. But the kind of wound-driven at shaming that I see, man, I see it, man. The comments that women put on my Instagram page about the men they're with right now, publicly. I'm just like, fuck, no wonder, he doesn't trust you. Like, you're out here shaming him in public. And I don't see men doing that.
I don't either, actually.
I don't see men doing that. I'm sorry, ladies, but I don't see men doing that. Maybe I'm sure it's happening.
Of course.
But it's happening a lot.
Mathematically impossible for it to not
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
It's not a common occurrence.
Yeah, it's not, man. I don't see it. And so, you know, you can't shame the boy and then demand the king. You can't shame the little girl and demand the queen, you know? It's just not realistic, you know? And it's not fair. It's not fair to put that on our partners.
It's not sustainable.
No.
It is not going to happen. And if it does happen, well, it will never happen. But if it does, it's a matter of trauma trains colliding and you know, repression coming through so strongly, and it's all false pretense. It's not real.
Yeah. So this idea of devotion, anything else that you want to add, like the textures of devotion that you, like, I'll give you one for me, like this ride or die thing. It's like, it's you and me. Team, we're a team. It's you and me. Like, okay, the world's, you know, pounding on you, you know, you got wounds coming up. Like, we're a team, we're together. It really is ride or die. I think Beyonce and Jay-Z kind of nailed that. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to say something that I'm just going to say the word, unconditionality. And I totally realize it's loaded because, you know, a belief that I hold is that this human love is conditional. But when we're really speaking to love and unity consciousness, I think it transcends conditions. And so how do we constantly tap into that through aspects and expressions of devotion to touch unconditionality? It's almost like touching the great expanse that is infinite. And so and maybe this is a little more ideal. I mean, I've experienced it.
Well, I think it's the texture. I think it's like what we just talked about, being devotional to love. Unconditionality is the premier trait of being devotional to love.
And actually feeling and experiencing that. And that's not, and again, we're talking about an emotionally mature individual that is doing their inner work, that is self-aware, that is willing to repair, all of that. It's not like I would be out there breaking agreements every single moment of every day and expect her to be unconditionally devoted to me. Just be real. But there's an unconditionality that if I mess up, if I succumb to something or I break an agreement, just use simple terms, how do we repair from that? Like, what does that actually look like?
Or a lapse in consciousness, which is what I see most. I mean, I certainly, you know, try to be conscious a lot, and I certainly fuck it up. And likewise. So again, this is part of emotional maturity, what she makes that mean. My lapse of consciousness is not a removal of love. It's just a lapse of consciousness. What she makes that mean is definitely a sign of her emotional maturity. But
how she approaches it too, like with courage and curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah. I think hopefully this is helpful to y'all. Okay. So far we've talked about emotional maturity and what that means. And then what it means to be, what are the textures of devotion that we crave? I'm curious, what is the texture of feminine, I don't know, emotion, expression that immediately melts you, like makes you just want to move towards her, want to pull her in, want to protect her? Like, what's the feminine trait, emotional trait that truly melts your heart?
You know, I'm just going to get really simple here. Her visceral excitement and openness when she sees me, maybe she hasn't seen me for an hour or a day or a week or whatever it is, and the embrace and the pressing of, you know, body to body, almost merge, like her intention, maybe it's unconscious, but it's the merging. That is really beautiful and is definitely a turn on. And it speaks to the
Would you call that warmth?
It's deep warmth.
Deep warmth.
Really, I mean, but also visceral excitement, and excitement to be in that I'm in her life physically again in that way. You know? And it shows in every, her smile, her skin changes, her physical movement, her animation towards me, you know, like magnetic. Like, it's like I need you in my space.
She's excited to see you. You know, there's this thing that happens all the time in movies where women, you know, run to a man and jump in his arms. I would ask any woman watching that, look at the men when that happens. Like, all of those motherfuckers are smiling because that particular like level of excitement and level of warmth I mean, let's just say, my man is here, my king is home. I mean, all of those things feels really, really good.
I think
Feels really good.
it feeds into the part of us as men that crave to be utilized, that crave to be of value to our group, to our cohort, our family, our village, our tribe.
Yeah.
It's that when we carry utility and it's shown and expressed in such immense and even healthily intense ways by others, it's that sense of purpose. We feel fulfillment. We feel like, oh, I'm here, I'm doing something, I'm being
I'm
something,
valued.
value.
I'm valued.
It speaks to that part of our
I think that's a really great point, Steph. Like men, so many men are even who are really working hard, right? Like coming to my programs, I'm sure coming into yours, a lot of men are working hard and they still don't feel valued for what they're doing. The preference, most of them are feeling critiqued for what they're not doing. Right. And there's obviously needs to be feedback, right? Like being able to I love getting good, open-hearted feedback. I love it from my woman, from men. I mean, I fucking love it. But being able to give feedback, but also celebration, you know what I mean? Like those two things, there has to be a relatively even ratio. Hopefully it's 80% celebration, 20% feedback.
Yeah. No, definitely, man.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's very primal. I think it's how, as men, from a human perspective, we've evolved. We've evolved to, protection and provision is also part of our DNA, if you like, part of our internal spiritual architecture.
Yeah.
And when we're recognized, it's so many people, I've heard them go, oh, that's just egoic. And you're just a wounded little, not me specifically, but, or me, you're just a wounded little boy speaking to that you need the recognition. It's not like I need it to function or to be a better human. I'm still on that path.
Right.
It's that it's really beautiful and nurturing and it gives me access to a part of me that I otherwise wouldn't have because of the relationship. We're relational beings. And again, like I'm just a big believer of men needing to feel utility. It's one of the ways that we expand and mature in the world. It's one of the ways I think that we grow spiritually as well.
Yeah. And I think that over the last, I don't know, I mean, probably since the dawn of time, but especially over the last 50, 60 years, there's been a call for men to open their hearts. Right? Like, okay, it's time to come out of off the battlefield. It's time to come out of like the constant accumulation and winning. And so when men are working on the utility, because I would call that a currency. Like open-heartedness is a currency. So when a man is working on open-heartedness through practice or any kind of embodied work or therapy or anything, when that heart opens, it's all coming out. It's all coming out. The little boy's coming out. The devotional king is coming out. The dark lover's coming out. The neurotic, whatever is coming out. Like it's all going to come out. You can't ask men to dedicate themselves to opening their hearts and then be choosy about which part that comes out of their hearts is acceptable.
Here's one of the ways that I look at it, and my perception of this is quite pragmatic. It just makes a lot of sense to me. As far as we understand historically, we've lived in quite harsh environmental conditions for the majority of our human existence.
Yeah.
Call it, I don't know, 2.5, 2.5, 3 million years of hominoids roaming this earth. Men, specifically because of our hormonal profile, because of our physical stature, became more responsible naturally for elements of survival. We spent so much time in survival. So as a result of that, we lacked capacity and range. We lacked range in the human expression. Right. The last however many years, I don't call it a couple of industrial revolution, if you like, maybe even a little bit before that, maybe actually the last couple of thousand years, as we've gone deeper into philosophy and wisdom and thinking laterally and all of that, maybe last 5,000 years, we are now having a capacity to be different, to not just have to survive. The utility I'm speaking to is not just about protection and provision and providing. It's a lot different now.
Right. It's a kind of containment that you're talking. It's containment.
Yeah. And so now, correct. And now that containment almost is expanding, or the lid's being removed, and we're able to touch into different parts of who we are as men, as humans. Yeah. And so this emotional maturity, this spiritual contemplation, this being different in relationship, it's all evolving. And it's all going to come out, as you mentioned. It's not just going to be the desirable and the pretty.
Yeah.
It's going to get pretty fucking ugly.
Yeah. Our feminine can be just as wild and crazy as yours, right?
100%.
And I know that this sets a lot of women off when I talk about this, but you know, the capacity to, I'm actually intuiting that a lot of this has to do with a woman's relationship to her own feminine. How was her own feminine treated when she was young? If her own feminine was shamed or criticized or made wrong, then your feminine is going to be shamed and criticized and made wrong. Yeah.
I would say that the vast majority, I don't know what the number is, but of little girls were shamed for their own feminine.
Yes,
by society and by familial values.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah.
I mean, I see it constantly.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I mean, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, it just, stop crying, shut up, you're too much, go sit down. Like, it doesn't take much.
Yeah, or a completely disassociated mother with very little nurturing capacity, a distant father, if unavailable emotionally, even physically, like just where? Or
fathers that don't protect them from their mothers, weirdness,
or fathers that are abusive themselves, like all of it, man. That strips away, that little person is so self-referential. They make it mean that it's all about them, it's my fault, and they develop this idea of low self-worth and I'm nothing.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to project that to protect themselves. This is where
which is fine. I want to say, that you don't have to have that healed to attract a high value man.
No.
You just need to be aware that aware that it's there and willing to lean into it and heal it. I'll fucking go to the depths of hell with a woman I love.
I know you will.
I will.
I know you will.
With a woman who's willing to go into her wounds.
And the beautiful thing I love about you, man, from what I've witnessed, is that you don't even put a fucking timestamp on that.
No.
Which is pretty remarkable.
To me, that is like the deepest use of my time, is to be in the trenches with somebody I love, unpacking wounds, holding space, clearing shit. Like, to me, that's my purpose. That liberates love. And of course, I want a woman who is just as, maybe not just as committed because I'm a freak, but deeply appreciates it and is committed to like that kind of courageous, what do you call it? Exploration of the heart.
Well. Yeah.
Excavation.
Yeah, it's definitely excavation.
It's into the underworld.
It certainly is.
I want a woman who wants to go into the underworld with me, like courageously, open-heartedly, and me go in there with her, and we just like
and into my underworld. I want to go into my underworld. Yeah,
both.
For sure, I'm very happy to go into
both. Yeah, no, that, and I think that's the thing. Like,
well, sometimes I'm not happy to go into the underworld, and that's when I'm coming from maybe immaturity, and I of course I own that, where it feels like it's too much for me, or I'm just being stubborn, or I'm shut down, or whatever it may be.
Well, I think a lot of men need an invitation and a little bit of just a heads up.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going into the underworld.
Yeah.
And
the heads up is everything.
Yeah. Heads up is everything, man.
Yeah, both ways, it's everything.
So many women just feel like, I just need to dump whatever's happening in me right now. And if he's not willing to hold it without any consent or checking in or invitation or container.
Well, it sets context though as well. And it's a preparedness. I like to know that if I'm about to go, ideally, if I'm about to go to war, then okay, I'm about to go deep into something, I know that it's happening. Yeah. And look, I also get that life isn't always like that. And, just for a moment, I was just reflecting on my own self, where I have been what I crave and what I ask for, which is some preparedness. I have been the antithesis of that in my relationship, because as you know, I'm boundary less than one up according to Terry Reel's work. So, which means that I can be sometimes, which is not preparedness for her, but I then expect it from her, which is,
of course. So look, we're all going to do this. We're all going to spring our underworld onto our partners. We're all going to do it. Men do it too, of course. And just from coming back to like what we crave as men, we crave somebody who's like, all right, going in, let's go. You want me to go into the underworld with you, or you want to do this yourself? You want to take a hero's dose and like sit in front of the fire and go into the underworld by yourself, or you want me to come with you? And, I love that. Like that kind of,
that shakes things up. I mean, imagine actually hearing that from your woman in real time.
Yeah.
Hey, you're getting really angry and it feels a little volatile.
Yeah.
you're going to go somewhere, I'll go with you, or do you want to go by yourself? Like, I'd be like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like, really? This is awesome.
Yeah, that's
my point, right?
That's the that to me is the courage, the adventurer, and just that's the kind of badass emotional capacity that I crave, right? To be able to like go, all right, like, I've got wild shit going on in my heart. You've got wild shit. Like, let's be adventurers. Let's fucking go in. Yeah. I love that you bookmarked that, because that would be awesome. And I've had that happen. I have had partners do that. And it's been like you said before, and I really want women to hear this. It's been both deeply healing and sexy. Mm. Like it's both it just nourishes down to the fucking core, when a woman can do that. Mm. Okay, so I have one last question for us to dive into. And I set this up with, my teacher used to have us stand in front of each other, not knowing each other, have a man and woman stand in front of each other. And he would ask the man, tell her what you would need in order to want to take her away to a desert island for the rest of your life. And we would have to feel into like that piece of, and it was very yogic. It was in the moment, because oftentimes we didn't know them. It would be something like, I'd need to feel your heart softer, or I'd need to feel your eyes softer, or I'd need to feel more pleasure in your hips, or I'd need to feel whatever it is. Same kind of question, but in the emotional realm. Like in the realms of emotional safety, emotional maturity, emotional expression. We didn't really talk about emotional expression, and I think that's a really important thing. But
let's do that.
Yeah, I think it'll dovetail into this question. But in all of those realms, what are the traits that make you want to claim her forever? I think we may have touched on a couple.
I think we've touched on many of them. I mean, willingness to be spontaneous, so spontaneity specifically for me. Willingness really underpins a lot of this. It's that, are you willing to go to the unknown? Are you willing to be mysterious? So I would also at a human level be craving novelty and variety, right? And so how do we be that with each other in forever time, so to speak, right? And are you willing to change and observe yourself, and are you willing to do something different that may be scary? So the courage is part of that as well.
Yeah. It seems like you're talking about range.
Yeah, range is a big part of it.
Like the capacity to be every expression of every emotion and texture the world has to offer, something like that.
Yeah. And I'd probably want to add to that as well. Are you willing to, and this is back to what we just spoke about a moment ago, but I'm just going to expand on it. Are you really willing to hold and not judge and be curious about and open to my truth in every moment? Yeah. And so if in that moment, and I've given it, I've sat with it in maturity, trust that. And in that moment, I'm sharing something that may be really difficult for you to hear, because it's about you, it's about us. Yeah. How do you hold that? Yeah. Do you push that away? Do you blame and shame, or do you really lean in?
Oof. I mean, that is so. If the masculine, the way I interpret that is, if the masculine values truth, which the masculine in almost every human values truth, then your capacity to be with my truth, even if you don't agree with it, even if it doesn't land for you, even if it doesn't, feel right to you, your capacity to at least honor that it's my truth and not blame and shame and not gaslight and not do all those things.
And not shut down forever.
And not shut down, like even if you have an emotional response to it. But I'm curious about the difference between holding it and meeting it.
Yeah, I think so that's really interesting. So what immediately comes to me is holding it is almost, there's numbing to holding it. Meeting it, there's more openness. Yeah. Because now she's going to really feel what that truth is, and she's meeting it with where she's at, as opposed to just holding it and saying, oh, okay, I hear you, I got that.
Yeah.
That, holding it's okay, but I think there's a numbing possibly that's associated with it, like a disassociation.
Yeah. I also think that women immediately go to holding space. And so a distinction I always like to make, and the thing that I prefer, like, I don't want you to just sit there like a stone and hold space for me. I want you to meet it. Like, what's happening in
what's your truth?
Yeah, what's happening in your body as you hear my truth, without blame, shame, or, like stabbing me in the heart, right? Like, what is, meeting it, even if that meeting it is our tears, and even that meeting it is, some kind of empathy, but meeting it. And so I really want women to understand that difference, because oftentimes women will default into thinking that they need to hold space rather than meet. So it's a very beautiful, subtle yogic and just sort of embodied difference. What else? What else would cause you to want to take her away to a desert island for the rest of your life?
Trust. I trust that she's got me. That it's just simple, man. Like that she's got me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can obviously go deeper into that. I think it's in all facets and all aspects of life.
Yeah.
It's she's got my mind. She's got my body. She's got that worship and devotion is there. And again, I'm not asking her for guarantees that it's going to be like that forever. A big part of it.
Or that she has to do that all day, every day, of course, right?
Definitely not. No. It's just that it's present. It lives within her, and it's a desire that she holds. I think desire itself, the energetic of desire, is something that I would want.
Yeah.
And another thing that I would want is, her sense of being devoted to, like you said, love, but being devoted to intimacy and connection and closeness, and being the pole for that as well.
Yeah.
And being the wisdom and the stand for that in our relationship and in our physical environment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. To have her hold the pole of love.
And the pole of nurturance is attached to that for me.
Yeah.
Deep nurturance.
Yeah. Yeah. Which brings me back to this idea of like, so, this idea of like meeting him rather than just holding space, and then not mothering him. I want to just one more time touch on that, because I know it's such a huge issue for both partners. So to me, what makes it not mothering is that there is queen or there is sexuality. Could be flirting, could be teasing, could be like the regalness of the queen, right? There's a huge difference between being a demand for my ascension and a critic of my, limitations, right? And so being able to, like, a woman who can demand my ascension without chopping the legs out from under me, oof. That's somebody I'd want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah. And the other part to that, if we're relating it specifically to the mother, is there's truth. There's no manipulation.
Yeah.
There's no there's no unconscious projected leeching.
There's no sucking. There's no sucking. Yeah.
There's no leeching energy. I need you, son, to be this way so that I can feel okay because my relationship with your father's fucked. Or I haven't healed from so much, and you're my saving grace. So I'm putting everything into you, and the demand and the expectations, because that's a big part of the mother wound for so many.
You hit another thing that I've been really feeling, which is and look, men are vampiric too, right? Men are vampiric too. They've been vampiric since the dawn of time. But we're really feeling the part of what I would need to feel to be emotionally safe is to not feel her sovereignty over her ability to merge with, intermingle with, become in union with, without sucking. Like the sucking of energy, the sucking of presence is just as gnarly, although it's rarely talked about, as, the sucking of Shakti, right? Or in a beautiful, healthy relationship, of course, there's this microcosmic orbit between the two of presence and Shakti, of consciousness and Shakti, and, but I need to know you're not just going to suck off of me.
Yeah.
My attention, my providership, my leadership, you're not just going to suck. Yeah.
And I'd say another thing as well, in answer to your question directly, is openness and receiving. Like she really willing to receive me, and also show me how to receive in deeper capacities, because my sense is that her being has even greater access to that. So show me how to be. I have access to that, but show me how to have even greater access to that.
Yeah. No, they're way ahead in the receptivity muscle, right? So yes, that's it. And so, as we wrap this up, man, I'm just curious on any final thoughts of what you would want women to know about what you crave and what you believe men crave in this emotional realm.
Yeah, I mean, man, for me, I really just crave to be seen and love for who I am as I am in non-judgmental ways and in compassionate ways and loving, nurturing ways. And I totally own that sometimes it's difficult for me to receive that.
Yeah.
Because even though it's not new, it still feels new sometimes, but the persistence of being able to see me in that way and just really see me is just very healing for me personally, And so
a lot of men, and a lot of men don't want to admit that because it immediately gets labeled as his feminine. And so a lot of men have shame around that.
I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with my level of quote masculinity. So, again, not perfect, but I trust my capacity in those realms. And so, I really value range, man. I really value range in human expression. So, and I see this, when you asked about for men, I see this in men, man. So many men are just so hungry to it goes back to that utility conversation.
To be valued.
Yeah, to just be valued, man, and just to be told thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see. There's a song called, I think it's called To Be a Man, but I can't remember his name. I'm pretty sure it's To Be a Man. Man, it gets me every time. I cry every time. And it just speaks to the simplicity of what a man's journey is like what his life is like, and how unseen he is, and how unappreciated he generally is in his family life and by society as well. And again, this isn't a woe is me, men are so disadvantaged. Not at all, man. We're talking about accessing parts of ourselves that really we haven't had permission or opportunity to access in forever.
Well, and I think thank you for saying that, because I know a lot of men feel that way, right? And again, we're talking about men who are on a path, on a journey. We're not talking to guys, playing video games, sitting on the couch, ripping bong hits for 10 hours a day, right? We're talking about guys who are really stepping in and trying, and to be seen for that. I always have this experience in workshops where I have, at some point in the practice, I have women look into their men's eyes and just repeat, "You're such a good man." And guys are bawling 30 seconds into it.
Do something very similar.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous, man. It is ridiculous.
Yeah. It is such a deep wound. And some of it is guilt over what men have done to women. And it is
or what they've individually done to other people.
Yeah. Some of it is legit, but I think there's so many good men out there just trying to get better, and being seen in that, I think, is crucial. And, I always like to think about it in terms of generosity. Like, maybe your man's not perfect. Maybe he's not, right? Maybe he has room to grow in many areas of his life, but be generous, be generous to him, and trust that he's trying, trust that he's doing his best. Because it does feel like, especially since Me Too, totally valid, a lot of reasons, but it's just seemed like that there's just such a knee-jerk reaction to fucking cut and castrate.
There's been a schism since then.
There definitely has.
A rupture in
It's gone a little too far into the, let's take their fucking heads.
Pendulum swings so hard, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say something to the example you gave about, women speaking love into men's hearts, and then just men crying, and you spoke specifically, you mentioned guilt, right?
Yeah.
That's just a perfect example of how nurturance, not from a mother energy. That guilt, those tears is guilt in motion. Guilt that is once in this physical and etheric organism is animating. It's moving through tears, through through that, it's moving. That means it's freeing from his system.
Yeah.
That means it's not impacting him anymore in the ways it does. It's not driving him. He's not
Or your
compensating.
children, or the world.
That's right. He's not compensating for that anymore.
yeah.
He's got more spaciousness to give, to expanding his own self, to take more ownership of other stuff. That's how freeing a woman's devotion, love, and non-judgment and nurturing is. It's a perfect fucking example.
Yeah, exactly.
And I get passionate about it because
dude,
it's so
beautifully
simple
said.
as well.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
And hard to do. I get it.
It is hard to do, but not as hard, I mean, like most women will, once they can clear away the past and they can be in the present moment and they're like, wow, like I can see what a good man you are. It crushes men every time. The other one that crushes men every time is I trust you.
Oh.
You know, like I trust you. I'll trust. David used to use this thing of I trust you, I'll follow you anywhere. And it was, again, all the men were fucking weeping. So, we're complicated, but, I like this idea. I think I want to wrap it up by saying this. The goal is holistic humanity, right? The goal is not this sort of stultified masculine and, this wild open feminine only. The goal is for us to be whole integrated human beings. And if we're going to use polarity as a tool, not a dogma, a tool, then being fluid in the use of our range of feminine and the depth of our masculine, back and forth in an ecosystem, a relational ecosystem, right? That is where I think we're going to have really deep, what's the word I'm looking at? It's like kind of like an explosion of conscious love when we can do that. So neither man or woman or any partner is hiding something, afraid to bring something, afraid to share a truth. And so this capacity, this agility of being able to move in and out of your masculine and feminine, no matter what your gender is crucial for that healing and that sort of explosion of conscious love. Just the way you outlined, man. It was very, you did it perfectly of like, this is what happens. He's not carrying this because you helped let it out.
Yeah.
Your love.
Yes.
Opened up the floodgates and it's out now. So he's not going to be spreading that shit all over the world.
Yes. And in that dysregulated expression of those tears and whatever it is, he will, just like the pendulum swings sometimes in negative, unhealthy ways, it will swing to a more regulated state. So he starts to feel what regulation in my nervous system feels like. I don't have to feel so tense all the time. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And powerful.
Yeah. You bring up this point of regulation, and I think that there's not enough discussion about co-regulation.
There's so not.
Yeah, there's not enough discussion about co-regulation. And I think maybe there's another episode to do on that because it's so huge. How do you co-regulate each other? Right? So that each person's nervous system gets to drop into a parasympathetic, open, receptive hum, quickly. And I think there's a whole, that's maybe even a fucking whole workshop just on co-regulation.
Sure.
And what that would
It's
be.
a big part of what I do in the world. It's a big part of what, my wife and I attempt to do, because when I say attempt, like we get it, but we sometimes don't get it. And sometimes we go to extremes with it and then we have to come back, and it's a process, man. Like it's one of the most important things and gateways to deeper spiritual and relational mastery and maturity, which is what you spoke to a few moments ago. It's co-regulation.
Yeah.
And it's helping. Because here's the thing for co-regulation, you can't be in co-regulation unless you're doing your own deep inner work.
Yeah.
And you're learning to regulate your own self.
Yeah.
That's part of what we spoke to, full circle moment from the beginning is the self-awareness and doing deep inner work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and then to be able to take that and give, like just hand on heart, classic co-regulation practice, hand on heart, hand on up and down the spine, breathing together, pressing bellies. And I mean, there's so many co-regulation practices, but yes, I want my partner to be devotional to love through those kinds of things. I think that's what we're talking about. Yeah. This was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I really loved getting into this with you, man. And you're the first person that came to mind when this topic hit.
Thanks, man. Well, that means a lot.
Yeah. And so where can we find you?
My long, complex name is at Stefanos Sifandos on any social medias.
Yeah, I'll have a link.
Yeah. And my website, stefanossifandos.com.